Like we're live on YouTube.
Nice
Steve, I
color,
can't hear
Julie.
anything. I've tried all three options.
Why don't we switch? Why don't you come down here?
Nice color, Julie.
Thank you. Yeah, we kind of.
We're coordinated.
Yeah. Where are you at?
Judge Clymer is going to do the meeting from down here.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
Good.
Sam.
Hey, Eddie.
So has Jeffrey joined us?
I'm here, Eddie.
Hey, Jeff.
That's fine.
Well, we're gonna tag team.
No, I'll just be over here for questions.
Hello, Derek in Channel 6. Glad to have you on board.
You want me now?
Yeah, we're all,
Okay.
it's not muted, but it's, we're recording. It's this one. It's this one here. courts too.
All right, everyone hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right. Had a little audio problems. I guess we're ready now. This is the July 13 McCracken Fiscal Court meeting. It's about 7 after 5. Call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bartleman,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Parker,
Here.
and Judge Clymer.
Here. Stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see. Oh, and will you offer a prayer, please?
There, let us pray. Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day. We thank you for the opportunity we have to serve this community. We pray you be with us as we make decisions, that they may be betterment for this community and make the lives better for all. Father, we ask a special prayer for our Sheriff's Department tonight for the aftermath of the incident of last week. Father, just be with those involved in that and give them peace and understanding, and that they did what they had to do. Father, we pray for all our first responders, for the many services and the safety they provide and the health they provide for this community. Just be with them as they perform those duties. Again, Father, we just thank you for all that you do for us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you. And we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, before we do that, do we have to do that first? We've got to have an amendment on one of the dates.
Yeah, let me find that. Yeah, we need to, let's see, we need to amend item M on the consent agenda to reflect the effective date of July 9, 2020. Get a motion to do that.
So made.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
Hold on a second. That's not on the consent agenda. That's on the regular agenda. Is that right?
No, it's on the consent.
It's item M on the consent. It's
Hold on a second.
July 9 instead of July 8.
Hold on. Let me make sure I know what we're doing.
M.
Hold on. Is that, what does that involve? Which one is that? Is that a contract?
No, it's an employee that was terminated.
Oh, okay. All right. I got you now. I'm good.
All right. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
So that was the amendment.
Yes. So I
Yes,
guess
the amendment. And now we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So
So
moved.
made.
I'll second.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right. Let's see. And Madam Treasurer, budget transfers.
It is ordered that the necessary cash transfers in the amount of $375,000 be made in order to pay county bills and payroll approved July 13th, 2020.
So moved.
second,
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
aye,
Opposed, no. That carries. Accounts payable.
It is ordered to approve the voucher claims register from June 22nd, 2020 to July 13th, 2020 to show county bills in the amount of $1,057,320.34 were paid.
so made,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed, no. That carries. And then we have on item 4 on discussion about take-home vehicles. That's come back up. We, as you all, I guess it's maybe last meeting where we amended our rules on take-home vehicles. We grandfathered in those folks in both the jail and the sheriff's department who were taking home vehicles, exclude or making an exception for them. Our general rule was that take-home vehicles, you could live in the county, but we had some folks who live outside of the county, including one fairly recent employee, we believe justified allowing him to take his vehicle home outside of the county. I was, I guess, the discussion really centered around the sheriff's department employees, but then after some discussion, we extended in favor of extending it to the jail. I did not know at that time that we had one employee at the jail who lives in Benton, Kentucky, so some 30 miles away, and did not have that knowledge at the time we voted. However, it's going to, I guess, fit within the discussion too, and another aspect of using commissary purchase vehicles because the employee at the jail who's driving to Benton is driving a vehicle, a 2017 Tahoe that was purchased by the previous jailer. That vehicle, as I understand, is being used. I thought we had jailer tonight on.
I'm here.
Being used, it was purchased with commissary money, but it's being used, I think, exclusively for transportation of the deputy jailer, both to and from home, and then I guess in connection with any travel he does once he's at his duty post here in the county. And so those two things overlap, take-home vehicles and commissary vehicle use. And so, am I correct on what I've said so far, Dave?
Other than him exclusively using it for that, we still use that for transport of prisoners as well on whenever it's needed.
You have a log on that vehicle?
No,
So we're still not following the mandate of the auditor, is that correct?
I'll forward you the email I have from the auditor, and it has an explanation on how to correct this without doing a log.
But the audit we had,
I just answered your question, Commissioner. I'm not going to get into this over and over again.
well, we need to resolve it. We need to follow what the auditor said. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry, Judge, go ahead.
Okay. Well, so I guess we're going to need to maybe sort of combine these two discussions on this one item, but you know, I preface all of this with you know, we've had these discussions back and forth about the take-home vehicles, about the appropriate use of the commissary purchase. And we had, David made some proposals about how it could be resolved, but since our last meeting, I've given it considerable for county attorney's legal analysis on the thing, along with the auditor's his not recommendation, our auditor that we used last. It's pretty firm that we have to keep a log of the use of commissary purchase vehicles, that commissary can pay for the amount of expense for when it's to the benefit of a inmate, but the county is responsible for the use of the vehicle when it's not for the benefit. And the other night got the statement from, what was the, David, Deputy Executive Director of finances or something for the state?
Yes, he was one of the higher ups in the auditor's office, whoever issues those kinds of opinions. I'm not sure exactly his exact title. It was from Frankfurt.
I think I had to move out of my office. I don't think I brought that with me, but essentially, didn't it say that if you don't have to keep a log on the vehicle, if there's some justifiable basis to determine that the use is 50-50 inmate benefit versus any other benefit.
Correct. And you log something prior to, the initial part of this. If you had that in your file with the vehicles, then you didn't have to have the log.
If you had what in the file, I'm sorry.
If we wrote out something explaining why this would be a 50-50 purchase, and you kept that in the file with the purchase, then you didn't have to keep the log to write the percentages out. Because after the first year, the percentages are going to go to the wayside, just like they did with this Tahoe.
So what I took from his statement was that if there's a basis, if there's a historical basis or something else, I'm not sure what it would be, but a explanation of how this vehicle or any other vehicle is going to be used 50-50, or if it were 60-40 or whatever, something that is, obviously it's got to be based on reality. It's got to be true. I don't think that we can just say, well, this vehicle is going to be used 50-50 for inmate transport, and so we're going to use it. We're going to use 50% of the commissary money, 50% of county money to fund it, and that's sort of where we are right now. I think I am convinced that these vehicles have to be used for the benefit of the inmates in order to charge it against the commissary. And I know Jailer Knight gave us a proposal that would, and I regret that that's the case, because the jailer gave us a proposal of using some money for is out of commissary, if we could work some kind of agreement out. But we keep coming back, butting against the law, the regulations that say if commissary money is spent, it's to be spent for the benefit of the inmates and in the proportion of what we charge the commissary. So I don't see how we get around that, even though it would be nice to be able to do so. That make any sense? That
The only way I could propose that we do that is if the county purchased all of the vehicles, and then, like I said, I compensate the portion of what the cost of those vehicles are through medical. Then it would come directly out of our budget. Roughly $140,000 for those 4 vehicles.
Out of your commissary budget or out of the county budget?
Judge, have you talked with them at all about what I proposed with you?
No, I've not. But I mean, you put the two things together, the auditor's review, the statement from the deputy executive director, I think they're pretty consistent that, you know, if we have you know, I don't think we're concerned with, or they're concerned with, is it 50% versus maybe 48% or that sort of thing. But to just be able to say that this Tahoe, we've got to have some basis, some factual basis to justify. And if we're asked to explain how is it that this vehicle is being used, and when you say using a vehicle, which it's being driven 60-something miles every workday, round trip to Benton, for the sole purpose of getting that employee to and from work and home. And so that doesn't fall to the benefit of the inmate. If you're transporting an inmate, I don't know, 2-3 times a day, and you're going 10 miles, you know, the percentage of benefit to the inmates is quite small compared to the non-benefit. That's my concern.
Commissioner Parker, what I had proposed was if the county just paid for the vehicles, I could pick up that dollar amount towards medical bills expenses from commissary, which we are authorized to do, and I did verify that with the auditor as well. So we'd basically be just moving one line item from another.
Well, is there not enough justified expenses for the benefit of inmates that it would eat up all or most of the commissary money anyway, between the locks and the locks project, between the medical needs of the inmates, between the recreational, whatever, educational, vocational needs?
Yes.
Because
Yes, it would be easy to spend it all.
yeah, well, then why wouldn't we do that? I mean, if the statute says it has to be used for the benefit of the inmates, why are we trying to use it for things that are not for the benefit of the inmates?
Well, up until this year, it was explained to us that they did consider it for the use of the inmate, that it enhanced the safety and security of the facility by transporting inmates with a caged vehicle. That was the explanation we got with the Tahoe. And that is also part of the commissary statute, is enhancement of safety and security of the jail. So this is only a recent problem that has come about. I mean, the jail's been purchasing these vehicles like this for 10+ years that I know of.
Yeah.
With no
Well,
issue.
it may be because we looked at the law. That sometimes the law gets in the way of doing things we want to. That's why you got that jail over there, and full of people that didn't recognize that.
But it poses a problem when everyone has a different opinion, and one auditor tells you one thing, and next year a different auditor tells you something else. So that's how we end up here.
Yeah.
Can you explain what the auditor has said to revise that? Did they say you had to justify and prove the percentage that you're using the vehicle for inmate benefit versus non-inmate benefit?
If you settled on
that if you don't keep a log.
percentage, if you settled on a percentage up front, then you could pay that percentage whichever way it goes, from the county or the commissary fund. As long as that paperwork was in the documentation, then they had no problem with no being a log.
So it doesn't have to be accurate. You just have to say, we're going to use it 50% of the time for inmates, and whether you use it 10% or
That's
80%.
the email I have from them.
We just say whatever we want to say. And it doesn't have to be accurate. Is that what I'm hearing?
I forwarded you the email, and that's the way I read it.
Wouldn't you rather be accurate though?
That's fine. I'd have no problem with that.
You have no problem with being inaccurate?
No, with being accurate.
But I guess my question is, how many vehicles do you have, David? How many do you actually need? And if we were to buy them, I don't think the county's really in a position. I don't want to use the taxpayers' money to buy a bunch of vehicles. Not at the price. I know you got some nice vehicles.
We had 11, we're down to 9. I got rid of 2 of them when I took over. And yes, we used them all.
Well,
And of those 9 vehicles, 6 or 7 of them are less than 2 years old, aren't they?
I would have to look at the list, but I would say they're less than 5 years old anyway.
well, I think it's, I guess we have to have the discussion, but I think we need to agree that whatever we say be accurate. Is that what we're talking about? Is that, or can we just make up some stuff and the auditor say, oh, well, you said it's going to be 50% transporting prisoners, so that's fine.
I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I don't think I want any part of that.
I think we still need to have justification of why so many people have to drive vehicles home in the jail. It's not like the sheriff's office where they have guns and equipment and protective gear. You're just using that because they may have to come back if something happens in the jail. How often does somebody have to come back to the jail at night, all 5 or 6 of the people who drive vehicles home?
Quite regularly, actually. We have plenty of fights our investigators and admin respond to. We have escapes. It's pretty common. I mean, the jail operates 24 hours a day.
So it's common that people have to come back after working hours.
Yes, it is.
Do you have a log that say how often that happens?
No,
How much has it happened in the last 2 weeks?
probably 3 times.
So all 5 of the people, that are 6 people that drive vehicles home had to come back in.
That's not what I said.
No, I'm asking that question.
No, not all of them at one time. Sometimes they do. The last 2 weeks, no, all 5 of us didn't come back.
I think we need to limit some of the drive home till we get this issue resolved and get it worked out, because it's going to cost the county a lot of money to do that. And we should have originally been using some of the commissary money for medical and for the jail projects rather than buying vehicles that are drivable vehicles.
With all due respect, Commissioner, that's entirely up to me. Is that money for?
It's not, because the county's going to have to reimburse the amount that it's not used for inmate benefit. So it does affect the county.
I didn't say
It
it
does
didn't
affect our
affect the
budget. It's
county.
going to affect it to $150,000 a year.
Well, I just turned back over 600,000, so I think I'm doing pretty good with the budget.
And we also used about $3 or $4 million of taxpayer money to balance it out.
Well, actually, it didn't use that much of it, but I mean, I could very easily have went up to my budget, but I didn't. I chose to conserve that money. So I'd really expected more of a thank you than you coming down on me about it.
Well, said when we started out the discussion, I do think that our jailer's doing an excellent job of, being responsible in most aspects and saving money and this vocational program that you're doing, jailer, I think is excellent. I just, on this specific topic of commissary vehicle money being spent on vehicles, I think that the law is clear, and I think that the auditors are following what the law is by saying that you have to be justified in saying that the commissary money that's spent toward a vehicle is commensurate or lines up with the amount of benefit that vehicle is giving or providing to inmates. And that's, we've got that rather detailed legal memorandum from the county attorney and very specific. I wish that we could vary from that. And as you say,
All
over
right, Judge.
over a 10-year period or whatever, it's been a different way. I suspect there's jails all over the state working under the same law that are saying we've always done this, and so we're going to continue doing it. I guess if you want to call it a problem, my problem is that I'm a retired judge and a lawyer, and so it's more than just a half-ass measure to say let's see if we can follow the law in this regard. So I just one way I guess of handling it is to do the log. I don't know how you would say the auditor, whoever the auditor is, comes around next time and the jail employee who's driving the car 60 miles a day back and forth to work, and we just tell him, well, it was justified using commissary money because a whole lot of those miles was for transporting inmates. That auditor, I would think, would not say, okay, well, if you say so, because they need proof. They need something just like that deputy or that whatever it was, deputy executive director or something. I said, as long as you've got something to show to justify that claim, then you're okay if you don't keep a log. But surely, did you get the sense, David, that if we just say it, that justifies it?
You're muted, David.
Yes, sir. That's pretty well how I read it.
We just say it and they'll bite.
That's the way I read the email myself. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well,
I've
If we're gonna do that, why don't we just say we're using 100% to transport?
it wouldn't be true, right? It wouldn't be true.
No, it would not be true.
It wouldn't be true, but
It's probably not true. It's 50%.
by God, we just say it. And so he'll say, that's good enough for us. I don't know. What do you gentlemen want to do? I'll be glad to try to talk to the auditor, try to flesh it out. But I tell you, I have a real concern with a vehicle going 60 miles a day to transport an employee. That's one thing, but we, for whatever reason, threw that into the mix when we amended our administrative code to grandfather in those who are doing that. But the other thing is, there's really two strikes. The other thing is that it's using commissary money. And of course, we don't want to lose sight of the commissary money is money that these people, the inmates in here, are paying for. And I don't know, I'm not going to make allegations that they're being mistreated or overcharged or anything, but you certainly got a well, I won't say audience. Literally, you got a captive audience, and you could charge just about whatever you want to charge for that 50-cent candy bar. And I suspect they're, I don't know, $2, $3 or whatever. And then the same goes with the family that wants to provide for their brother, son, father, whoever's over there. They can pay $2, $3 for that 50-cent candy bar. And then the profit goes to put into a 2017 Tahoe to drive a jailer back and forth, deputy jailer back and forth to home every day. It just doesn't sit well with me. So anybody have any proposals? What you want to?
I had a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
David, you said the first year, it only matters the first year on the percentage. I don't know that.
I'm saying that's what they audit is whatever I bought this year, they won't ask about again in 5 years or whoever bought it, whatever jailer bought it. I mean, out of the 9 vehicles I think we have, well, there are probably 7 of them were bought with commissaries sometime from some jailer at some point.
I see. The scrutiny tapers off after the first year. So I see in our packet, and I guess it's somewhat related but unrelated, and that's the jail commissary fund summary and reconciliation. And that's something you have to file yearly.
Yes.
All right. And then this year's, there's like an other expenses of 183,000. Is that where the vehicles came from? Is from the other expenses?
Yes. Some of it is that, I mean, probably 60 something thousand of it. The rest of it, we pay for things that would normally be tax dollars, such as cable, TVs, shaving equipment, that kind of stuff.
And I totally get the fact that these dollars potentially save our general fund. I think that's your point.
Yes, sir.
And I guess it does surprise me to have, so of the $196,000 expenditures, it looks like 183 gets kind of put into other category. But I assume this is a fund, this is a form that's been generated by the Jailers Association.
Actually, I believe it come from the Department of Local Government is where they got that. The auditors sent it to us last year.
When you say you turn back over 600,000, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by that.
Means that the county budgeted for 7.3 million last year to go to the jail, and we didn't use 600,000 of it, which we could have used. 596 and some change.
All right. Well, those were my questions from the discussion. I don't think it surprises you, David, that I feel the same sentiments as the others that, particularly given the source of this income, I feel like we should be particularly careful to ensure that we follow the statute and make sure that the expenditures are consistent with arguably a vague statute. I think it could be written a lot better and a lot more detail. And if they did take the time to do that, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion and a couple more. But those are my feelings.
Well, and again, David, I appreciate the good work you're doing over there, and I don't want to sound like I don't, but on this particular, and so you turn back 600,000 of whatever you were budgeted from the county, and so that's showing that you're doing very well fiscally, being very fiscally responsible. You're not using money that, I don't know why we budgeted for you $600,000 more than you needed. That's the other way to look at that's the other side of the coin, I guess, is for some reason, and probably based on historically and probably based on maybe the previous administration at the jail, we believed that you needed $600,000 more than you did need. And so if you had not turned that back in, you found some way to spend more money than you needed to run the jail. I mean, that's the, I guess the accounting way, or the opposite side of that argument is that you were able to do what you needed to do, and nobody will think that any of us would argue that you're not doing a good job of running the jail and providing for safety of the inmates and the general and all that, but that's the way I look at it. And I think the way this court has to look at it is, what amount of money do we need to provide to the jail from the county budget to do what you have to do? And apparently it's 600,000 less than what we gave you this last fiscal year. And some of that, of course, as we see, and the discussion is probably because you've been, based on history, using some commissary money for things that we have discovered that can't be used for. Some of it is probably just because you're looking closer at your contracts. You're saving money somehow over there more than what, because I don't remember if we budgeted more last year than the previous year, or if it's substantially more. I don't recall. Maybe you know.
I think we also need to point out, Judge, that the revenue from the jail was $218,000 less than what was projected. So the savings was less than 600,000. It was 400,000 because the jail revenue was less than what was budgeted.
Well, and so my thinking is definitely we have to follow what the law is. Sam's done a job, I think a good job on seeing what that is. I think it's consistent with what the auditors are saying. I will, if you think it's a reasonable move, speak with this deputy executive director. If he tells me, well, I guess even if he told me, I don't think I could do it. But if he tells me, you just tell me what amount and I'll bite, and it can be used that way. But I would like to hear that from him, if that's what because it's going to gnaw on me that we've got a deputy executive director of the Kentucky Division of Finance or whatever he is, that's willing to just base these things on whatever he's told, whether it's in fact reality or not.
Was that the Division of Finance or the Auditor's Office that issued that opinion?
Auditor's office.
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
So there are some circumstances that we can get an enhanced reimbursement from the state. Am I correct on that? We typically get $31 a day, but if we've got somebody in an SAP program, they can get more, or we can get more.
That is changing if, I'm not sure exactly when it's changing, but yes, there is legislation in place that will do that. And we would definitely meet all the criteria to get more money since we have all of these programs.
I guess I was wondering whether we had more expenses, whether we would be needing more things or people to qualify for that higher reimbursement.
No, these are programs I already have in place with current personnel.
Okay.
And actually, I spoke with Judge Clymer last week just to give him a heads up, or maybe it was Steve Doolittle, about a grant we're working on and expect to get approved for. It's up to 1.4 million, and that would reimburse 2 or 3 of our employees for a 3-year period that covers these programs. So at least a portion of them. But we'll be able to do a lot more of these programs with this grant, and that would make us more eligible for the higher state reimbursement by offering these. And we should know by the end of August, 1st of September, whether we get it or not and how much.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, how about?
I'm going to ask a question of Sam. Sam, did you ever receive a response from the County Attorneys Association regarding this issue? You're muted right now.
Good.
Yeah.
I got a response last Friday, but it wasn't the response that I was looking for. I emailed shortly the very next day after our meeting 2 weeks ago, and I didn't get my response until Friday. The response was, I'm sorry, I anticipated having another opinion published on, or published as in sent to you. And I still haven't gotten anything. I said, thank you, but just please encourage whoever wants to share that information to feel free to share it as soon as practical, as soon as possible. But I'm not getting any cooperation or assistance from the association, unfortunately.
I can probably understand that.
Yeah, nobody wants to take that stand.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, and that kind of comes around to the two that, David, you'd said back, I don't know, maybe a month ago, or that you believe that the Jailers Association had asked for an AG opinion on this. But I think, did you tell me you found out they had not
That's
asked?
correct. They have not, and I can't get a whole lot more out of them than Sam's getting out of his group. So we're having a statewide meeting in the morning, and I expect to hound on them again about it, but I don't think they want to be involved either.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're afraid of what the results would be.
what I can do is just submit the qualified question to the AG. I'll follow the statutory parameters for submitting a proper AG opinion. I'll include all the research. I wanted to try to avoid doing that because I got a lot of stuff that's going right now, but I'll put that at the top of the list and try to get it done very quick. And so I'll submit that properly. So they're going to have a statutory duty to respond to me in some fashion. So that we will at least get some kind of guidance on that.
All right.
Okay.
I'll try. When I can get it, I'm going to try as soon as I can.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And whenever we get that, or maybe even before, I'd like to, I've read a lot of AG opinions over the years. Some I think were correct, some not. But I think the law is pretty clear on this myself. But it's always good to have a third or fourth opinion. And I think probably the reason the Jailers Association didn't want to ask the questions is because they didn't want to get.
Judge, I think moving forward, we have to go with your plan. You can contact the auditor and get a clarification, and see if you can get a clarification, understand it in writing, so that there's no confusion or misinterpretation of what's said. So I think you're planning to do that. I think that's what we need to do moving forward.
All right. All right. And item 5, old business.
Ready for me to read that?
Yes, ma'am.
It is ordered that the judge executive is authorized to sign the service agreement with GPEDC to pay the amount of $250,000 to GPEDC for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Motion.
So made, and I've got a question that we'll get it on the floor.
So this is on the table. Is this a motion to bring it off the table? Is that?
I'm making a motion to get it on the table, but I've got a question.
Is there a second to move it from the table?
I'll second it so that Jeff can ask his questions.
All right.
I guess I don't want to get in the situation we got into last time with GPED and holding up their money, but this $250,000, is it going to be paid in quarterly? This is not a lump sum, correct?
Right.
Right, it's quarterly, or right, it's a lump sum?
It's not a lump sum. It's quarterly. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think
then I would be okay with voting on this, and I think we need to go ahead and get them their money. If we've got a problem with something they're doing, we need to resolve it, but not by holding up the money like we done last year.
edible. So I think the order needs to be amended, and all we really need to do is simply authorize the judge to sign the contract.
Yeah.
And not reference the 250,000. The contract says what it says about the payment. That being said, I've proposed some additional language. I guess GPED's going to meet and think about it tomorrow. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But I think they're planning to meet on, I think they're going to meet as a group tomorrow. I don't
Yeah,
think they've
we're
met.
meeting live tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning.
So I would prefer to table it and see what the group says, because right now I think all we've heard is what the leadership says. I don't know who we've heard from, if we've heard anything.
Heard from in what context do you mean?
Well, I guess Bruce indicated that maybe Glenn and JP they don't want to amend their articles again, and I don't know that they have to. All we're asking for, or all I'm asking for, is that they add to the contract the requirement that they conduct their election, because I don't think they've done that yet. I don't think they've had the investment council meeting yet. And certainly they've had reasons to push those things back, as we've all had to. But I think it's important, if we're going to participate, and I certainly think we ought to continue to participate in GPED, but we're the organization that is best suited to make sure that they're following their rules, and we're the best organization to ensure that they're I guess what we all wanted was more transparency 2 years ago. I don't think there's any question about that. And we've got the opportunity. We didn't like the business model when we came into office. We made some suggestions for the change of the business model, and they made them. So then the pending question is whether commissioners, city commissioners, county commissioners would be invited to attend their investment council meeting. Frankly, I'm surprised that there's some resistance to that. Now that I know I'm not invited, I probably don't want to go anyway, but it surprises me that that would be the position. But I guess the board's going to talk about that, whether what their official response will be tomorrow. So I appreciate your position, Jeff, that you don't want to be the guy that is holding up the $250,000. And frankly, I don't think any of us want to be that position. I don't think any of us are trying to take that position. I think what we're trying to do is create a business model for economic development for our community that will last in the next 10 years.
Well, of course, the bylaw is Investors Council is made up of people who invest $1,000 or more. And of course, you and I, Commissioner Jones spoke earlier about, and I don't know what this investor council meeting amounts to. I don't know if it's a 1 hour meeting in a boardroom with some snacks, sandwiches, or if it's a banquet. Never really thought about what it is because I knew I wasn't a part of it. But you
know, there's a statutory duty that all four of us have, but and Judge, you're a little different because you're the judge executive, but in the statutory duty of the commissioners, we're supposed to make sure that the money we invest in different products is the right product. And it just surprises me that we would somehow be excluded from that meeting. But I don't know. I don't know that we've technically been excluded from it. It was just simply a suggestion I added in the contract, and I was surprised that it didn't get an immediate, yeah, that's a good idea. But we'll see.
well, so we.
I tell you what, why don't we,
about it?
Since we've got it off the table, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to amend the order so that we strike the words to pay the amount of $250,000 to GPED. And rather, so if we take those words out, then it just simply says, sign the service agreement with GPED for fiscal year 2020, 2021. So I would move that we strike those words.
Is it in the service agreement to pay them quarterly?
Yes.
Yeah, the agreement specifically
I think so.
says, here's how we'll pay you and here's when we'll pay you.
Well, then that's what I asked. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Well, what does that effectively do, Commissioner Jones?
I'm sorry, what's
Approve
your
your
question?
amendment, what does it effectively do? Because we
Well, it
approved
takes-
the contract, we're approving the 250 and the 4 payment provision.
Well, I guess I don't like this order because I think it could create some ambiguity and somebody could accidentally write a $250,000 check all at once. And that's not what our contract says.
We won't do that.
Well, I mean, there won't be any ambiguity if we amend the order.
Commissioner Jones, didn't you want to make sure that we are eligible to attend the investor council meetings? And until we get an amendment, we don't have that option. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, the proposed contract that they proposed does not include that invitation.
So do we need to lay it on the table to try to get that change made and hear more back from the GPEDC? Because as I understand, they have not even considered that request.
Right. And I've prepared a contract, a counter contract with a paragraph, and I think I've sent that to each of you. And yeah.
Can we approve the contract with that change in it rather than the other one?
Well, we could just put it all on the table, I guess, and just wait. I mean, I guess my next motion, frankly, Commissioner Bartleman, was going to be, now that we've got the order language right, to put it back on the table. But to be honest with you, I'm just kind of disappointed that this has kind of become a public discussion in advance of it needing to be a public discussion.
Well, I mean, they're following their bylaws. I can't recall that at the last meeting, if we had any discussion about that. I think if we had some discussion that I would recall it, but so I don't believe GPED has discussed that. We did get accomplished. They did amend their bylaws to create that government, what was it, government something program where 2 commissioners, Commissioner Jones. Task force. So they did amend their bylaws last time we wouldn't pay them in order to create the task force, and Commissioner Parker and Commissioner Jones appointed you two to that. Now we're going to potentially hold up their money again because we want to be able to have, I don't know if you're talking about 1 or more commissioners on the investor council.
Here's how I really feel. When we took office, this organization, if I'm going to be asked to talk about it and put it in this way, I'll just go ahead and talk about it. This organization was not functioning well. The board was way too large. There was a lack of transparency in it. And we all set about to try and fix that. And we have fixed that. And it's not about holding up money to get what we want. It's about trying to create a better business model for one of the most important functions of county and city government that exists and will exist over the next 10 years. I think we ought to take time and get it right. And I think we are the people who have been elected to try and lead that conversation.
Commissioner Jones, what do you want to do? You want to pass over it?
I want to pout a little more about having to have this conversation. And I want to put it back on the table.
So what did we do? We took it off the table. Did we accomplish anything other than bat it around and want to put it back on?
Well, I think Commissioner Parker got to let everybody know that he doesn't want to hold up the money. That's what we've done.
Well, I think in the long run, we're not going to hold the money up anyway. I mean, we want to, maybe we show some good faith here and go ahead and pay them accordingly. I just want to make sure it can't be confusing. Somebody write a $250,000 check. I'm okay. I want to pay them the quarterly money.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. if I write $250,000 to GPED, when the contract says I'm to write a quarter of that amount, then I'll just walk on out of here and go on home.
The agreement specifies that it's in quarterly allotments. So if we approve the agreement, it's in quarterly allotments. That's what the agreement says. So
Well,
that's
and-
not an issue of how, whether it's paid in one lump sum or four. The agreement says four.
Well,
The issue is Commissioner Jones's desire to have some input or at least visual access to the Investors Council meeting. Isn't that your issue?
you know, frankly, they need to have an investor council. I think if we ask for a copy of the investor council, I don't know that, I mean, who's on it? So that's the group that needs to meet. That's the group that needs to elect its directors. That's the group that needs to, you know, look at the annual budget. That's the group that needs to have fundraising and try and create more private investment into the organization. It's the group that needs to make sure and ask their employees, hey, what are we doing? What's our next step on economic development? So I think it's an important part of creating the right business model.
I think the reason they've not had the meeting is the COVID. I think they were wanting to have an investment council meeting, you know, in person. And I really don't have any concern about them not following their bylaws, with the exception of it's being delayed. And I think that's for the COVID. But if you want to move to retable it, we'll retable it. We've got quite a bit to get through again yet tonight, but I want to make a motion to vote on it, whatever it is.
I don't like the contract as it is. It's an improvement. I'd like at least an opportunity to improve on it. The quarterly payments were, you know, we were just kind of glossing over that. What we were trying to do was ensure that there was a report to the public every 90 days. So it wasn't just about we're going to make quarterly payments. It was we were trying to use our contractual contract to ensure that there was more public transparency. And frankly, it's working. We've made, I think, a great deal of progress of building a better business model for what we're trying to do.
Okay.
So we've got that, Commissioner Johnson. I'm confused on exactly what the issue is. I thought you were concerned about input on the Investors Council, that our $250,000 input has the same weight as somebody that donates $1,000. I thought your concern was that we need to, as commissioners, need to be able to attend those investor council meetings. I don't know whether we'd have a vote, each would have a vote or not, but we would at least be able to hear the input and have some visual participation.
The contract I proposed was that we would attend as non-voting members. Basically, city commissioners and county commissioners would attend as non-voting members.
So we would have one vote.
Right.
We all could be there and engage in the discussion. At the bottom line, have one vote. I don't have a problem with that. But we need to get that in the agreement. We need to see if we need to encourage GPEDC to add that to their bylaws.
So somebody tell me what you want. Is the motion then to not enter into this contract until some commissioner is allowed to attend the investor council?
You know, I guess I just kind of, the restatement of that is a little offensive because we're not trying, I don't think that really truly restates what we're trying to do. I think what we're trying to do is have a contract and a discussion with the other entity to build the right business model. So that's my motion, that we put this on the table and we continue to negotiate and try and build the right business model for economic development.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to argue with you, Commissioner Jones. I don't know what the right business model means. If I'm going over there at 7:30 in the morning, and I'll be glad to tell them, if it's the case, if the majority of this body believes the right, I mean, you see what I'm saying? I don't know what to tell them.
Well, you can tell them that
To pay you the money because we want to make sure you got the right business model.
Well, I think you can tell them that at least at one point, 3 commissioners in discussions that were not held publicly, but in separate discussions, all thought it'd be a good idea if we would attend the investor council. I think
I'll second your motion to leave it on the table and then continue negotiations to try to resolve this issue.
I wouldn't have to go back very far in history, maybe 6, 8 years, to find 4 or 5 really good examples of how leaving commissioners in the dark until the last minute on an economic deal or economic issue leads to a decision that might not be the best decision.
I'll second your motion, Commissioner Jones.
So the motion was to table it?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Leave it on the table and continue these discussions with GPDC.
All right.
Am I right, Commissioner Jones? Is that what the motion is?
It is.
All right. All in favor of, pardon me?
Okay, we had a motion by Commissioner Parker and second by Commissioner Jones. That was just to discuss, right?
Correct.
And then Commissioner Jones made a motion to table it.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then Commissioner Bartleman seconded it.
yes.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. We're all in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Nay.
And so if I vote nay, then we're gonna not table it and we're gonna continue in this discussion.
But Judge, I think technically it's still on the table. So we just pass over and move on to the next item because we never voted to take it off the table. So it's still on the table. I don't think we need any more motions. It's still on the table. If we don't take it off the table, there's nothing to do with it.
We took it off the table when we discussed all of it, right?
Right.
We did not vote to take it off the table. There was a motion and a second to take it off the table.
No, I don't think that's right. I don't, if it's on the table, then we don't discuss it, isn't that right?
That's the way I understand it.
We've been
Well, then we
through a
need to
lot
vote
of
on the motion.
discussions.
Then we need to vote on the motion, take it off the table. The motion by Commissioner Parker, seconded by Commissioner Jones, to take it off the table. We made that motion that allows.
Wait a minute. I thought if I voted no, we would push it to the next meeting and we'd discuss it again. Is that not true?
No.
Because I thought y'all were going to table it.
That would table it.
Yes.
You want to table it?
Yes, it would table, Commissioner Parker.
I want it tabled to the next meeting, so, but I thought that's what would happen if I voted no.
No, the motion was to table it. So you're voting to table it.
Right, correct. I want to vote to table it.
All right. All right. So it's back on the table then. All right. Then court orders under 6.
It is ordered that ownership of a male German Shepherd named Fiscal, date of birth January 27th, 2012, be transferred from Deputy Brad Lamb to the McCracken County Sheriff's Office for the amount of $1 effective June 23rd, 2020.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. B,
It is ordered that the judge executive is authorized to execute a contract with Paducah Water, 1800 North 8th Street, Kentucky, on behalf of McCracken County Fiscal Court for the relocation of Paducah Water Work facilities located along the Milton Drive project beginning at Star Hill Road and extending to Illinois Street. The county agrees to reimburse Paducah Water and their engineering firm, BFW Engineering and Testing Incorporated, for the total actual cost associated with the water line relocation. The estimated costs are engineering at $3,200, and construction at 30. These amounts are a preliminary estimate only.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
And this is reimbursed by the state. Is that correct for that project?
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. C,
It is ordered to approve the June transient room tax in the amount of $146,825.68 to be dispersed as follows. Paducah CVB, $43,297.88. Convention Center, $29,260.91. Sports Tourism, $44,481.69. Escrow Fund, $29,785.20.
So made.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. D,
It is ordered to extend the $411,375 loan made to GPED to June 30th, 2021.
So made.
I'll second.
What is that?
So I think this is the city and the county both loaned $900,000 to buy property out at the Triple Rail site. Sometime in the history of GPED, the county forgave $500,000 and the city didn't forgive $500,000, probably because they didn't get invited to the investor council.
All right, I'm good. So we're just foregoing it, just pushing it out further, right?
They don't have to make any payments. There's no interest. But if they sell the property, we get the money back.
all right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. E,
It is ordered that $21,616.50 be paid to Barclay Regional Airport, same being the first quarter budget allocation for fiscal year 2020-2021.
So made.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, oh, sorry.
I thought I was voting already. No discussion.
No discussion. All right, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries.
F, it is ordered that $58,766.66 be paid to Bill Dunn, the Cracken County Property Valuation Administrator, same being the first installment of the county's statutory obligation to the PVA for fiscal year 2020-2021 based on certified assessment.
So made.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. G,
It is ordered to pay Lincoln Chrysler Dodge $24,433 for one 2020 Classic Dodge Ram 1500 4x4 crew cab, purchased for building and electrical pursuant to bid accepted and approved on November 25th, 2019. The 2020 vehicle was for the same price as the approved bid for a 2019 vehicle. This is for the purchase of one of the two crew cabs approved November 25th, 2019.
So made.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. H,
It is ordered to receive and record a copy of the Grafton County Jail fee.
motion?
So
moved.
made.
Are there any changes in these fees from previously?
Taylor says no.
Do there need to be any changes or are they, I don't think they've been changed in quite a while.
They're in line with what they should be.
Pardon me, what was that answer?
They are in line with what they should be.
Based on what, the state fees
The
or?
laws that set our booking fees for us, but the co-payments for a doctor's fee is like $20, which is equivalent to what you'd pay in the real world.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. I lost count. Where are we?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Ordered to receive and record a copy of the contract between the McCracken County Jail and Mid-America Health. This contract was approved on June 22nd, 2020. It covers a 12-month period of December 2019 through November of 2020.
So made.
A second.
Second.
Let me add this issue. We've got a number of these, 7 or 8, 9 of them or so. What do we call it? Let's see, receive and record a copy of the contract. So there's an overall issue of who is to sign contracts that bind the county, not just the jail, but bind the county. I think all of these were initiated about a year ago, and so we're reviewing them because they're either expired or about to expire. I'll just, as background, I'll just tell you, of course, I've been, as you gentlemen, well, Bill, you've had prior to. I've been in office a year and a half now. I guess busy enough that I didn't give too much thought that we needed to look at these contracts. The jailer's been handling them over a period of time and signs these contracts. The concern is, again, being the retired judge and the lawyer, is the jailer the sole person to negotiate and sign these contracts when the contract is between the jail and the provider, although in 1 or 2 of them it mentions that it's between the provider and the county. But regardless, it's the county jail, and by signing these contracts, the jailer is binding the county just like he is the jail. And so Sam has done some research on that. I think pulled up something from the past that his conclusion, you correct me, Sam, that contracts that for services, which these are to be signed by the judge executive. And I don't remember, Sam, if we discussed, if they need to go through a fiscal court analysis, approval, that sort of thing. But that it's not just the jailer that can bind the county and the jail to these contracts.
Yeah, that's right. The degree of depth that the fiscal court has to allot going over the contracts is not specified. It's not, there's no mandatory minimum or anything like that, but there does in fact have to be court approval collectively as a government body to authorize the signing and the binding of the contract anytime it's dealing with funds that are properly budgeted for that cause. If the money comes from the county for that cause, then the county must be the moving party of the contract.
So the situation would be, it would be appropriate for Jailer Knight to do the negotiations to get the contract procured, elements of the contract, price, everything needs to be in there, but that it then goes to the fiscal court for approval and signing by the judge executive.
Yeah, that's right. The party that's to be bound is the fiscal court. They provide all the money, so the fiscal court has to be okay with what the money is being provided for, the amount, things of that. They just have to approve the contract essentially, with the signatory by statute being the judge executive.
And so as of these contracts specifically, however many there are, again, 7 or 8 or 9 of them or something like that, we've not made any kind of, the jailer is, it's probably based on the prior year. Well, I think all of them are. Well, I guess that health services. But anyway, the jailer has negotiated the contract and in fact, already signed the contracts and working under them. Is that right, David?
Yes, sir. Other than one, I think you signed the one for the dental thing, if I was told right.
That's right.
I didn't sign it.
Yeah, you're right. I did.
If I'm understanding what you're saying, Sam, we're doing everything that we're talking about now, except the judge needs to sign it rather than me. I mean, we've been running them through the fiscal court prior.
Yeah, it just needs to be a formal recognition, memorialization via the orders of the fiscal court that they approve.
Sure.
If what you've negotiated, they're good with, county is intending to be bound by it. Judge executive signs.
Okay.
Are these
Some of
contracts, are there any, is there any bidding or quotes on these, or do you just?
Every one that I've had that is a new contract has been bid out, yes. Most of these are reoccurring that were here long before I was.
Okay. Is there any potential savings to rebid them?
The ones that I've found savings on, we have rebid. The others, some of them we're bound by that we can't get out of, like the Xerox one. I would love to rebid it, but I can't get out of it for another 4 years.
Which one was that?
Xerox. I think we have another 2 years on it.
I think Xerox is the only one I didn't get to. I've reviewed 8 or 9 contracts in about an hour's time, so I didn't do a thorough review of it. But, I saw that was a 4-year.
5.
5.
60 months. It was signed in 2017, if I remember right. Anything that I've negotiated, I don't go for more than a year. I don't like to be stuck that long.
So has the county attorney, Sam, have you reviewed these?
I have not, no.
Because I did see the Judge, you mentioned in our prior discussion, I took a look at the indemnification agreements, and some of them they look, well, they're certainly varying and different.
Yeah, there was some, a couple of them indemnified the jail, but it did not indemnify the county. And so, again, so where are we on that, Sam? We've got the jailer has signed off on some of them, and in fact, the provider's been working under it for, well, the previous contract term for a year, but the new one, maybe for a few weeks or a few months or whatever. So if we wanted to go back, the jailer, I guess, has ostensible authority to these service providers to enter into the contract. But
that's where we run into a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem because no one's made it a problem. But if there were to be a dispute to arise as to the legality and binding nature of those contracts that were only signed by David, then we are not going to have a binding contract, because the law says that the only way the county can be bound is by fiscal court approval and approved signature by the signatory. And with regard to ostensible authority, there's case law from the Supreme Court of Kentucky that says that implied contract principles equity type of principles do not apply to make a contract signed under ostensible authority. In this case was in the context of a dealer that bought some cleaning supplies. The dispute arose, no implied contract, no binding contract, because ostensible authority is not granted to a party that is not by law really legally authorized to take that action. So if somebody want to get real technical about it, there's not a contract at this point, although there has been specific performance.
Noticed in the, is Kimball's Foods at the,
Yeah, there's a Court of Appeals opinion with a lengthy discussion. And I think there may be a Supreme Court. The Supreme Court opinion, I think, was the cleaning products. And then there was, I think, some food vendors as well. The cases are saying essentially the same thing.
gotcha. So David, are there any of these contracts you need done right away? Is there a priority on any of them?
No, none of these are new contracts.
Okay. I noticed that the one for the federal inmates, we certainly don't want that to expire for.
No, we read that a few months ago, and it should have went through the fiscal court when we got it. I renegotiated that, got another $10 a day out of them. So,
Boy. So do you have a problem if we pass these contracts? Is that what we need to do, is pass these contracts so we can give more reviews so the judge can feel comfortable signing them?
You know, I wouldn't mind to have an opportunity just to peruse them. And I don't think I've looked at these contracts. I've looked at a lot of contracts for David in the past. I don't specifically, but if I ever look at a contract, there's going to be an email that's associated with it that says approved as to form and legality. And I don't recall having drafted that kind of approval on these. And so I wouldn't mind to do that at all.
the ones that are here, Sam, that me and you have emailed back and forth over, the Kimball's Food, Kimball's Commissary, Combined Public. That is probably it. The healthcare. So there are correspondence with us over that, and the ones that I have initiated, there is the indemnification in those. I made sure you had the approval on them before I would go forward with it. Some of these, like I said, were years prior to me being there that have just recycled over and over.
Gotcha. What we can do, if you want to, just to double check and make sure we're all covered, just fire those contracts to me. I'll peruse them, give them the okay, whatever changes
Sure.
we'll do it. No problem.
Not a problem.
Madam Clerk, what, did I make one motion to put items I through Q on the table, or do we have to read them all?
I'll second that motion.
That'll do it, I think. Well, we've got I through.
Yeah,
R.
Oh, yes, I through R. I through R.
Well, then there's S is the
Yes. It's commissary.
Well, that's just to receive the report.
That's what all these are.
So it's not a contract. I think it's just an annual report that David has to file.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's I through, the motion is to table I through R.
I through R.
Any further discussion on that? Was there a second on it?
I second it.
Commissioner Bartle.
Okay. All right. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that carries. We'll put it back on probably then for our next meeting. That gets us to S then.
It is ordered to receive and record the McCracken County Jail Commissary Fund Summary and Reconciliation for fiscal year 2019, 2020, which covers the period from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
So made.
Second.
Yeah, I've got one comment, and I guess I alluded to it earlier the other night. I guess I don't like how big the other expenses is in the amount of the report, and it seems like it could. I feel like we're in your business maybe too much tonight, and I apologize for that. I want to echo that there's lots of great things we read about your work. But when I look at $183,000, $196,000 in an other account.
If it helps any, this form that we sent you is just what is required by the auditors and by the law for us to do. Anytime you want to see what we're doing with it, I have every expenditure itemized, and I'll be glad to share them with you. It's just not what is required to turn over to the treasurer or fiscal court once a year. So we've got the forms from them because we got hit on it last year by using the wrong forms. So anytime you want to see what we're spending on, I'll be glad to share it with you.
Well, more light is better. And
let's see. And so any other discussion on that? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. The board appointments.
I've got an additional order to add on the public agenda, so it'll be item T.
Okay.
It is ordered that the McCracken County Fiscal Court hereby authorizes and directs the treasurer to call the series 20 REF General Obligation Note and to retire the debt service related to said bond issue in the amount of $637,413.82 and authorizes the execution of all documents related to same. It is further ordered that the city of Paducah be paid $4,913.82 for accrued interest.
So made.
second.
Any discussion?
Is this the bond that paid for the equipment or the bond that paid for the building?
I think it's a bill.
The building.
Yeah, building.
How about the loan that they had to pay for the equipment? Has that been paid off yet?
I don't think they plan to pay that one off, Bill. I think they plan to assume that debt and keep making payments.
Okay, so they'll make the payments and we won't. They'll make them directly.
Yeah, they're assuming that, is that my understanding of the questions I asked earlier in the week or last week, that they're assuming that and they'll continue to make the payments as Genova had made.
Okay. So whether it goes through us or direct there. Okay, thank you.
All in favor, aye.
I
Opposed, no. That carries.
wish we could do one of those every meeting.
Pardon me?
I wish we could pay one of these things off every meeting.
Yeah, that will reduce our debt service by a couple $100,000.
Yeah, this is a good company coming in town.
Okay. Board appointments.
A, it is ordered that Arthur Boykin is reappointed to the PAD Board of Directors as a joint minority appointment to serve a term beginning July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2023, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second,
Any discussion?
Arthur's done a good job on that board. He was a chairman last year and he really worked hard on that. He's done a good job.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that D. Phelps is reappointed to the PAD Aging Committee as a joint appointment to serve a term beginning July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2023, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second,
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. C.
It is ordered that Leon Owens is reappointed to the PAD Economic Development Committee as a joint appointment to serve a term beginning July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2023, subject to further orders of the court.
so move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. D.
It is ordered that Tammy Zimmerman is reappointed to the PAD Economic Development Committee to serve a term beginning July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2023, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second,
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. E,
It is ordered that Richard Beck is reappointed to the PAD Food Bank Committee to serve a term beginning July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2023, and subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. F,
It is ordered that Richard Roof is reappointed to the PAD Transportation Committee as a joint appointment, to serve a term beginning July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2023.
So made.
second.
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Carries. G,
It is ordered that David Troutman is appointed to the Senior Citizens Board to fulfill the term of Kristen Lynch, who retired in February. Said term will expire on June 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
Ready for the ordinance?
Yes.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 7, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2020-09 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, ordinance number 2020-09. An ordinance amending the franchise agreement granted pursuant to ordinance number 2005-10 to extend the term of the franchise. The action taken on the present ordinance is ordinance number 92-2, enacted June 8, 1992, and ordinance number 2005-10, authorizing an extension of the grant of a non-exclusive cable television franchise until December 31st, 2020. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of contents of ordinance number 2020-09. The true and correct copy of ordinance number 2020-09 shall be made available for public inspection in its whole and complete form by the McCracken County Judge Executive's Office. Any person desiring to inspect ordinance number 2020-09 shall contact the McCracken County Judge Executive's Office via telephone at 270-444-4707 to make arrangements for the transmission or delivery of the same.
So made.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Resolution?
It is ordered that the designating resolution designing the Paducah McCracken County Industrial Development Authority as McCracken County's Industrial Development Authority to receive Tennessee Valley Authority, or TVA, funds under the Regional Development Agency Assistance Program.
A motion?
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
So let me ask you,
Aye.
I had a question. So this is this possible that we could, if we were to form our own or a different IDA, one that is not a city county IDA, and let's say we do that in 6 months, can we change our designation, or is this a once a year thing? Seems like we're doing it a little earlier than we did last year. I think we did it around Barbecue Festival last time.
So,
Statute requires us to do this annually if we want to receive any money this year.
we got a deadline on it?
Vicky knows, I think she's in the meeting.
Oh.
Sir, do you want me to answer?
Yes.
The deadline is September 25th. However, there are RDEP funds Steve Irvin is preparing paperwork on that we cannot do until this is done.
What, we're trying to spend some more money?
Yes,
Steve Doolittle, I think, is aware of that.
they're proposing to build new signs for the I-24 park in the amount of around $20,000.
So it's to build new signs for the I-24 park. It's in the neighborhood of $20,000 that would use the TVA money for. And that's needing to be done, I think.
But we should have that. How much money do we have in this account already?
I don't know.
More between 150 and 200,000.
150 to 200,000.
We're essentially designating, we're gonna get another 100, right? When we designate this, we get it, this is, we're saying we want this to be the park for the next 100,000 for 2020 and 2021. But we've got enough money already designated to cover the signs.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is a bad idea, but I mean, I assume we all realize the I-24 revenue sharing agreement expires in 2021. The obligation to take care of the I-24 part comes from that agreement that's about to expire in 2021.
There's some reason why is it in the grant or application or anything? Is that what it is?
The state requires us to designate it once a year.
And that is absolutely true. And I remember the training last year, and I think I think I took a picture of a piece of paper and sent it to Steve, because in the training, they said, if you don't designate, you lose. It's a designate or lose. So it's an important thing to do. But this, again, I guess it just kind of surprises me that we've got it on the agenda for tonight. And at some point, I think this body should give some thought as to whether we need another IDA and whether that IDA should also be designated as the recipient of these funds, which can only be spent through an IDA for economic development.
So, Steve, do you know if is there any reason why it would affect our application for did you say this is for a grant?
No, it's just for the use of.
For the use of the TVA money?
I don't know that we have to pass this tonight.
Okay.
Burning deadline.
All right. So I'm hearing we're not, don't have a pressing deadline.
Well, I don't want to forget to do it. And I don't know. It just seems like to me, this is.
Well, if you table it, it's going to come up every meeting, so you won't forget to do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I guess you're right.
Let's table it.
Then we can remove it from the table, discuss it, and then put it back on the table.
There you go. But we won't forget it.
So is there a motion to table it?
I'd like to make that motion.
All right. Brother Jones, you want to second that?
I will.
All right. Any discussion further? All in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that's tabled then. I don't know of any executive session. Anybody know of anything we need to do in executive session? Think not. All right, the motion to adjourn.
So made.
I'd like to continue, but I'll second it.
All right, so any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Ah.
Oh, all right, we're adjourned. Thanks, gentlemen. And Madam Clerk, thank you.
to stop the broadcast. Don't shut it off just yet.